8. Ian spun around. Run. He grabbed my hand. We dashed across the clearing, while I simultaneously tried to go offline. My black boots slipped on the frozen snow, but Ian's firm hand pulled me up before my face connected with the ground. Follow me, I know the most direct path through the woods, Ian called, rearranging the grappling hook on his belt so it was within easy reach. Why hadn't I noticed it before? What else did he have on him that I hadn't seen? I'd been so focused on the gun. We sprinted back through the underbrush, small branches swiping at me from all directions. My skin stung, and I tasted a warm metallic liquid in my mouth. Blood. My lungs burned in my chest with each inhalation. Running in these extreme temperatures without a proper warm-up wouldn't do me any favors. After a couple of miles, Ian slowed. I rested my hand against the nearest tree as I caught my breath, trying to ease the pressure in my chest. Once more, we were back near the concrete field, although several dozen yards from where we first entered the forest. A lone satellite tower stood near the opposite edge of the field, its metal base rusted and overgrown with weeds. My stomach clenched, although I was sure it had nothing to do with our forest sprint. The unease I'd felt in the clearing had morphed into a gripping panic. Now they can not only track my location, but they can trace my activity too. I'll never be able to use my comp again. Relax. Think. There must be something you can do. I bit my lip again and thought back to all my training sessions with Dad. What had he said about hacking? That you had to be untraceable. Well, that wasn't an option anymore. They knew where I'd logged on from, and that I'd tried to infiltrate their network. If surviving past my death day wasn't a death sentence in and of itself, adding hacking into the government's servers to my charges wouldn't exactly help my case. All the cybersecurity precautions I'd taken were for nothing. But what if Ian, that's it. I slid to the ground, grabbed my comp, and opened it again. I'll do a full reboot on the system. With a little luck, it'll remove the tracking beacon. We'll be untraceable again. My fingers zoomed over the keyboard, typing command after command. I wiped the sweat off my forehead, smoothed back my curtain of hair, and hit enter again. Did it work? Ian crouched down beside me. I creased my brows and studied the lines of code on my screen. A progress bar indicator appeared, showing 7%. My stomach dropped. But my battery was only at 4%. I glanced up, my mouth dry, answering his quizzical look. Ian. My battery. I need an alternative power source. Otherwise, my comp will die before I can complete the reboot. And that means the tracking beacon will still be intact. If that happened, I'd have to dump my comp. I had always thought of it as a lifeline. Although the GA required us to carry them at all times, I had learned my way around its inner workings. With help from Dad, I'd made it my own. Now, I couldn't imagine life without it. Not only that. If the GA found my comp, they'd realize it was me who tried to hack into their network. They'd go straight for Mom. For Lewis. And I wouldn't let that happen. I gritted my teeth and balled my hands into fists. This reboot needed to work. Ian ran his hand through his curly hair, lost in thought. He shot a fleeting look back through the trees, then pursed his lips and shook his head. We'll never make it in time. Make it where? Back to the city? It's too dangerous, no, not the city. But, after a moment, his mouth widened into a grin. Creasing my brow, I followed Ian's gaze through the tree line. The white tower glittered in the distance in the early morning light. Within seconds, understanding flowed through me. The satellite tower right here on the concrete field. Brilliant. I jumped to my feet, running through the calculations in my head. The antenna should be connected to the city's power grid. As long as I could maintain the comp's battery during the reboot, we'd make it out of this. But to do that, I'd have to run across the concrete field, exposed and vulnerable. Mom's warning about finding shelter and keeping safe rang through my mind. After a moment's indecision, I launched myself toward the tower, my dark brown hair flying behind me. I had to do this. Wait up, Ian called after me, but I could barely hear him over my heart thundering in my ears. I didn't dare turn around. If this worked, we'd shake off the GA and I'd get to keep my comp. Throwing open the ancient power box at the base of the tower, I fumbled for my comp cable and connected the two with trembling hands. The reboot progress bar was at 19%, while my battery was only at 3%. Please work, please work, please work. Nothing happened. I cursed under my breath. Ian caught up with me. What's wrong? The electricity's dead. My battery will never last through the reboot. Ian bit his lip, banging his fist on the first rung of the tower. He glanced up, squinting at the dish high above us. I craned my neck upward. Of course, the satellites are still in orbit. They weren't destroyed in the Great War. You got it. The Asian superpower didn't send any nuclear missiles to space, did they? Ian smirked. No, they did not. Do you think the satellite might have some residual power? It's worth a shot. I opened my browser, bringing up a few old satellite blueprints I'd found while perusing through the systems one day. I located the associated satellite and compared its stats with the dish before me. My stomach churned. The dish is not aligned. It's facing northeast, not east like in these blueprints. I tapped my comp screen with my finger and chewed the inside of my cheek. I need to climb. Maybe I cut Ian off. No, it has to be me. No way am I letting you climb that thing on your own. I bit my lip. There wasn't time to argue. Together. A smile warmed Ian's features. All right, but let's use this. Shrugging out of his coat, he unfastened a harness off his body, pulled a metal cord wound around a spool out of his pocket, and unclipped the grappling hook from his belt. Attaching it to the cord, he handed the harness and spool to me. I'm not taking any chances. I took the harness from him and shimmied into it. What about you? I've got the hook. He waved it around, a smirk playing on his lips. We'll be connected through the cord. Taking a deep breath, I jumped onto the satellite tower and began the arduous climb to the top, pausing every few seconds to allow Ian to catch up. The whistling wind whipped my hair in all directions, and the metal was freezing beneath my fingers. It was in moments like this I wished I could afford gloves. But I gritted my teeth and climbed on, one step at a time. After several long minutes, I glanced around, assessing our progress. We weren't even halfway up. I groaned. This is taking too long. We'll never reach the top in time. Ian followed my gaze and nodded from below me. Okay. Go on, but take my hook as well. Ian's shout was barely audible over the howling wind. But go. I'll be fine. I'll keep a lookout. I locked eyes with Ian and pressed my lips into a tight smile. Exhaling sharply, I continued my climb. Not long now, just a few more feet. Patrol's approaching. I grasped the metal rungs tighter and squinted through the morning air. There, in the distance, Ian called. My heart sank. Although I couldn't make out their individual shapes, the signature's square formation was unmistakable. A troop of safety patrols was marching toward the concrete field from the city. I swore under my breath, but I refused to back down now. Not when I was this close to getting the GA off my trail. One problem at a time, though. Gasping for breath, I pulled myself up the last few rungs and positioned myself behind the dish, using its weight for support. Confirming the satellite's exact position on my comp, I heaved the dish to the right as hard as I could. It didn't budge. No. I hurled my entire body against the dish, straining against its weight. Nothing. Come on. I pushed again. Move. It gave way a fraction. I breathed a sigh of relief, but my job wasn't done yet. I heaved it again, my knuckles turning white from exertion, and keeping one eye on the troop of approaching safety patrols on the horizon. Once the dish was in position, I grabbed my comp, which was at 2%, and attempted to attach it to the base of the dish with the cable. My cold, stiff fingers fumbled with the opening. I took a step toward the dish and connected the two, just as my foot slipped on the icy rung.